Okay, well, hey neighbors, and welcome to the Shed Shop and this edition of Incidental Audits. This is going to be part 2 of a 4-part mini-series and then a conclusion. If you haven't watched the first video, go ahead and click the info card right here. I'm chewing taffy, sorry I'm messy, neighbors. And watch that video first. It's only about 3.5 minutes long, and at the end of that video, you will have the info card, the video link to click on to this video. At the end of this video, you will have an info card, a video link to click on the next video. And so you will be able to click on the link at the end of each video to follow this series. And so go ahead and click that info card you just saw and start on video 1, which is the ID refusal. I'm going to give you a little bit more background, and then I'm going to show you what I believe is a 4.5 or 5.5 minute clip. These events happened in Milner, North Dakota. It is a town of just over 700 people. In video number 1, what you see is my camera got turned on after I refused ID for about 35 minutes. North Dakota is a stop and ID state, but it is not meaning you give your physical ID and stop and ID states. Many states, all you have to do is give your first and last name, and then in some states you have to give your first and last name along with your date of birth. The police will try and convince you that for any reason they can stop and ID you, but they still have to have reasonable suspicion that you have committed a crime, are in the commission of committing a crime, or about to commit a crime. And so what has happened in this incident is I was in a mission trip, and I was in this man Casey's house, the bootlicker you see in video number 1, and I have a service animal. I'm disabled, and the neighbor's yard is very close to ours. They border together. She has 2 dogs that are largely kenneled most of the time. For many months, my dog would go over into her yard and lay on her porch, and I would call my dog back into our yard. And the neighbor would say, no, she's fine. I love her coming over here. The neighbor, her name was Indy. She would give my dog treats, and she would pet my dog, and my dog would play with her dogs, and her dogs would come in our yard. They even pissed in our garden on our organic food multiple times, and we never complained to her. Indy had the cops called on her quite frequently by neighbors in Milner for her dogs being loose in the neighborhood, and she did not like that. We felt that instead of calling the cops in this tiny little town, if you have a problem with your neighbor, you should just address it with them directly and try and resolve it together. 2 days before this event, Indy had the cops called on her for one of her dogs, and we had just discussed how disgusted we both are by people that just call the cops. Indy brought another dog home randomly one day and let it out of the car, no leash. My dog was in her yard, so my dog's border was our yard as well as the neighbor's yard. And we had a neighbor across the street that would have his dog frequently tied up outside, and he accepted her going over into his yard and playing with his dog. And so she knew her borders within that area. She knew she was not allowed to cross the street this way or cross the alley and go into the other neighbor's yards without permission. My dog Angel was laying on the neighbor Indy's back porch, and Indy lets this pit bull out of her car, and this is a pit bull that she knew full well did not get along with other dogs. And my dog would always go, I got taffy in the teeth. My dog would always go and greet Indy from her porch or from our yard, and Indy would pet her and whatnots. And so Angel starts going toward Indy. She's only about 10 feet from the porch when Indy pulls in. Angel's on the porch. Indy's about 10 feet from her own porch. And again, mind you, my dog had full permission, and in this instance, normally I would still just try and keep my dog and say, well, I just prefer her to have the boundary in our yard. But you know, sometimes you just have to say it will be what it will be. This neighbor seems real nice, and everything has gone along. The very first time she let her big dogs play with my dog, they beat her up, and she thought I was going to be mad. I said, Indy, it's fine. You can let your dogs back out. They both had little cuts. They've learned their lesson. I think they'll get along now. She said, okay, I just don't want you to be mad. I said, I'm not mad. They're just like kids. Sometimes they're going to fight each other on the playground. Sometimes they're going to get in arguments. And so this dog immediately latched onto my dog and Indy started hollering, "Come get your dog," and I was there just like that. I called my dog back, and I brought her back into the yard. Well, Indy was not upset, and I said, "Sorry about that." I said, she told me she's dog sitting this dog, and it's only going to be here for a day, and it doesn't get along with other dogs. I said, "Okay, well, I'll try and keep Angel in the yard." She said, No, it's fine. She can still come over and lay on the porch. So I let my dog go over and lay on the porch. Well, after this happened, Indy came out of the house with the dog again, and you have to watch till the end to find out what happens next. So enjoy this, and then at the end of this video, again, click the link, the end card they call it, which is a box with the next video in this series. That will be video number 3. This is part 2. Until next time, neighbors, be kind to one another. Everyone's facing a battle, and stop giving your ID to the police just because it's easier. It's only erasing our constitutional rights. Until next time, neighbors, enjoy.